don't you even think about asking us to change our plans again?" My mother's voice boomed through the phone, sharp enough to rattle the sterile walls of my hospital room. "We've been waiting for these Billy Joel tickets for ages." I sat there, frozen, my fingers shaking as they gripped the phone. It was Christmas Eve at Nevada General Hospital, and I was alone except for my 3-year-old twins, Liam and Sophia, who were stacking blocks quietly in the corner. A nurse named Clara was adjusting my IV drip, her movements gentle despite the chaos of my life. The pain in my stomach felt like a jagged blade carving me from the inside, but my mother's cold dismissal on the video call cut deeper. "My name is Amelia Carter. I'm 35, and for as long as I can recall, I've been the overlooked shadow in my family. My younger sister, Lauren, was always the star in my parents' eyes. Flawless, the thought ignited something inside me. A spark of self-worth I hadn't felt in years, a resolve to protect myself and my children from those who saw us as burdens. When Sarah arrived, she was everything Clara had described. Warm, professional, and instantly engaging with Liam and Sophia. As the hospital staff prepped me for surgery, a resolve solidified within me. "Can you grab my phone one last time?" I asked Clara, my hands trembling but my mind clear. I sent 2 messages. The first was to my bank, halting all future transfers to my parents' account. The second was to them. "I'm done supporting you financially. My children and I deserve more than being your afterthoughts. Don't reach out again." As they wheeled me toward the operating room, a strange sensation cut through the pain and fear. Liberation. The surgery went well, but it left me frail, my body slower to recover than I'd hoped. I spent 6 days in the hospital, fading in and out of consciousness, grateful for Sarah, who went beyond her duties. She stayed with the twins in my room during the day and took them to my apartment each night. During a clearer moment, I noticed my phone flashing with notifications. 32 missed calls, and a flood of texts from my parents and Lauren. Most followed a familiar pattern: bewilderment, then fury, then frantic demands about their mortgage. Not one asked about my surgery or the twins' well-being. My father's final message was telling: "You can't just abandon us like this. We've got a Caribbean cruise booked next month, and it's non-refundable." Lauren's messages stood out, though. She seemed genuinely puzzled. "Mom and Dad said you had a minor procedure. What's going on? Why are they panicking about money?" It hit me that my parents had downplayed my emergency to her, framing their choice to attend the concert over caring for their grandchildren as justified. Still groggy from painkillers, I typed out the truth, laying bare the severity of my condition and their indifference. Her reply came fast. "Amelia, I'm horrified. They told me you were exaggerating a routine visit. I would have taken Liam and Sophia if I'd known. I'm so sorry." I believed her. Lauren wasn't malicious. She'd just been raised in a world where her needs always came first. Maybe this would open her eyes to our parents' true character. By the time I was discharged, I'd made several decisions. First, I hired Sarah part-time to help with the twins during my recovery. Second, I reached out to a lawyer to draft a will, naming a close friend as guardian for Liam and Sophia, if anything happened to me. Definitely not my parents. Third, I blocked my parents' numbers, allowing only Lauren limited contact as I gauged her sincerity. The financial shift was daunting. The $3,000 I'd been sending my parents each month was nearly 1/3 of my income as a freelance illustrator. Without that burden, I could afford proper childcare and start rebuilding the savings drained after Michael's death. That night, lying in my own bed with the twins asleep down the hall, I felt a tangle of emotions. There was guilt, a lingering sense that prioritizing myself and my kids was somehow wrong. There was fear about juggling recovery and parenting 2 toddlers, but there was also a budding sense of self-worth, something I hadn't felt in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "I just had a massive argument with Mom and Dad about how they treated you. I'm at a hotel tonight. Can we talk tomorrow? Maybe I wasn't as alone as I'd thought." 2 weeks post-surgery, my strength was slowly returning. The incision site still ached sharply if I moved too fast, but I was coping better each day. Sarah had been a blessing, arriving every morning to care for Liam and Sophia while I worked from home. My illustration clients had been remarkably patient with my reduced hours, and I was thankful for the flexibility of remote work that kept me near my children. Lauren had stopped by twice, bringing home-cooked meals and playing with the twins. Our talks were tentative at first, but one evening, as we watched Liam and Sophia build a tower of blocks, she opened up. "They always made it sound like you were the one pulling away from the family," she confessed, her voice soft with regret. "I never saw how much they were shutting you out." I glimpsed a new side to my sister, one buried under years of our parents' manipulation. While I wasn't ready to fully trust her, I valued her efforts to bridge the gap. Then came the knock I'd been dreading. Through the peephole, I saw my parents in the hallway, my mother clutching her expensive handbag, her face tight with anxiety, and my father standing with arms crossed, his familiar scowl in place. My pulse raced as I cracked the door just enough to speak. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice calmer than I felt. "Amelia, sweetheart, we've been so worried," my mother began, her syrupy tone setting my nerves on edge. "You haven't answered our calls, and we needed to check on you and the twins." "We're fine," I said coolly. "Is that all?" "No, it's not," my father snapped, leaning slightly against the door. "We need to sort out this absurd financial mess. The bank called about our mortgage, and we had to use our cruise fund to cover it." Their gall left me speechless. No questions about my health, no concern for their grandchildren, just complaints about money. "I told you I'm done supporting you," I said firmly. "I meant it." "But darling," my mother pleaded, her voice climbing, "we've come to rely on that money. We adjusted our entire lifestyle because you promised to help us." "My promise?" I repeated, incredulous. "I've been sending you thousands out of guilt and duty, while you couldn't even care for your grandchildren during my life-threatening surgery." My father's expression hardened. "That's unfair, Amelia. We had commitments. Commitments more important than my kids' safety, more important than my life," I shot back, anger surging. "Do you even know what the doctors said? There was a real chance I wouldn't make it through that surgery. Did you ever ask?" Their silence spoke volumes. My mother's eyes darted away, and she murmured, "We made one mistake. Are you going to hold it against us forever?" "This isn't about holding grudges," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "This is about consequences." "I've spent my life chasing your approval," I said, a quiet resolve settling over me. "And when I needed you most, you chose Billy Joel tickets over helping me." "We're your parents," my father barked, his tone demanding respect. "And I'm a parent too," I shot back. "I'd never treat Liam and Sophia the way you've treated me. Never." Just then, Sophia wandered into view, clutching her stuffed elephant. My mother's demeanor shifted instantly. "There's my sweet grandbaby," she cooed, crouching down. "Grandma brought gifts." But Sophia, wary of these near strangers, stepped back and glanced at me with uncertainty. "You need to leave," I said softly but firmly. "If I'm ever ready to talk, I'll reach out." "But the money," my father began. "Isn't your concern anymore," I interrupted, gently closing the door. The next morning, they returned, this time with my mother's sister, Aunt Margaret, who always played the family mediator. "Amelia, let's be reasonable," she called through the unopened door. "Your parents are struggling without your support." "They managed their finances for years before I stepped in," I replied, my voice steady through the wood. "They chose early retirement knowing their savings weren't enough." My mother's voice cut in, sharp and desperate. "We made those choices because you promised to support us. We had to cancel our cruise, and now we might lose our house." Their manipulation was so clear now, stripped of the guilt they'd wrapped me in for years. When had I ever promised lifelong support? I'd offered temporary help after their retirement, but it had somehow morphed into an unspoken obligation. "Mom, Dad, I'm recovering from major surgery and raising 2 toddlers alone," I said. "This conversation is done." I walked away, ignoring their persistent knocking and pleas. Later that day, an email from my father landed in my inbox, copied to the entire extended family. It painted me as a heartless daughter who'd abandoned them in their hour of need, claiming they'd given everything for me. Conveniently, it left out their refusal to care for Liam and Sophia during my emergency surgery, framing me as ungrateful and spiteful. But they hadn't counted on the pushback. My cousin Daniel, who lived near my parents, replied to the group, "Uncle Thomas, didn't you just buy a new SUV last month? And Aunt Patricia, wasn't that a new sapphire necklace you were showing off at Easter?" Other relatives chimed in, some reaching out privately to hear my side. Even Aunt Margaret called after learning the truth. "I had no idea about your surgery," she admitted. "They told me it was a minor procedure, and you were using it to punish them financially." Lauren, meanwhile, had firmly taken my side after seeing our parents' behavior firsthand. She helped me draft a concise response to the family email. "I recently underwent emergency surgery with serious risks. My parents refused to watch my children during this time because they had concert tickets. I'm now focusing on my recovery and caring for my twins without added stress." The support that followed was overwhelming. Daniel's wife dropped off a week's worth of casseroles. A distant cousin offered to babysit Liam and Sophia when I needed a break. A cousin I barely knew offered to babysit Liam and Sophia part-time at no cost. A gesture that warmed my heart. Lauren began spending weekends at my apartment, bonding with her niece and nephew while helping me recover. Most unexpectedly, Clara, the nurse from the hospital, connected me with a support group for young widowed parents. Their first meeting was virtual, allowing me to join from home. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt truly seen by others who understood my grief and challenges. Meanwhile, my parents' financial situation unraveled rapidly. They'd been living far beyond their means, relying on my monthly $3,000 to fund their lavish lifestyle of trips and luxury purchases. Lauren discovered they'd taken a second mortgage on their house a year ago to buy their SUV, assuming I'd keep covering their primary mortgage indefinitely. "They've been lying to everyone," Lauren said, stunned, after reviewing their finances at their request. "They're not broke. They're just overspent. They could recover if they sold the SUV and their vacation condo. Their increasingly frantic voicemails and texts kept coming, but with each passing day, their grip on me faded. I was building something new from the ruins of their betrayal, a support network rooted in genuine care, not obligation. A month after my surgery, a major development shook things up. Lauren called, her voice heavy with concern. "They got a foreclosure notice," she said. "The bank's giving them 60 days to catch up on payments, or they'll lose the house." "What about their retirement savings?" I asked, balancing Sophia on my lap while Liam napped. "Mostly gone," Lauren replied. "They blew a chunk on that SUV, then sunk the rest into a shady investment scheme Dad's golf friend pitched. They lost nearly everything." That evening, desperate texts from my parents flooded my phone, stripped of any pretense of concern for me. My mother's message was particularly telling. "We never thought you'd actually stop sending money. We figured you were just upset and would start again after a week." Their assumption that my boundaries were a bluff enraged me. All those years of prioritizing their needs, enduring their disregard, they'd never respected me. Meanwhile, my life was taking unexpected turns for the better. The support group became a lifeline, connecting me with others navigating similar losses. Through them, I met Rachel, a real estate agent whose husband died of leukemia 2 years earlier, leaving her with a 4-year-old daughter. She helped me explore options I hadn't considered, like selling my cramped apartment and using the equity to relocate to a more affordable area with better childcare resources. I'd launched a small side business, creating memorial websites, inspired by the one I'd made for Michael. Several members of my support group had hired me, and word was spreading fast. For the first time since becoming a widow, I felt a spark of purpose beyond just getting through each day. The contrast between my growth and my parents' downfall became stark when they showed up unannounced at my apartment again, this time armed with a spreadsheet detailing their debts. "We need $150,000 to save the house from foreclosure," my father said, his usual commanding tone now laced with desperation. I let them in, not out of duty, but curiosity to hear their perspective now that they faced real consequences. "What about selling the SUV?" I asked, motioning for them to sit at my modest kitchen table. "We'd lose money on it," my father protested. "And the vacation condo. The market's terrible," my mother added quickly. "Those are our retirement comforts." I nearly laughed at the absurdity. "Comforts you can't afford. We could afford them with your help," my father snapped. "It's the least you owe us after all we've done for you." "What exactly have you done for me?" I asked, my voice calm but piercing. The question hung in the air, unanswered. Just then, Liam and Sophia toddled in, Liam gripping his favorite toy train, and Sophia chattering happily. My parents' faces softened instantly. "There's our darling grandkids," my mother cooed, reaching for Sophia, who ducked behind my legs, unsure. "They barely know you," I said plainly. "You've seen them maybe 4 times in their lives. You chose to stay distant." "That's not fair," my father argued. "We're busy people." "Too busy for your only grandchildren. Too busy to help your daughter through life-threatening surgery, but not too busy to demand money," I said, my words cutting through their excuses. "That says everything about your priorities." My mother's face crumpled, though I couldn't tell if it was genuine sorrow or another ploy. "Without your help, "We'll lose everything," she whispered. "I lost my husband," I replied, unwavering. "My children lost their father. We survived. You will too." 3 months after my surgery, my parents faced the inevitable. They sold their house to avoid foreclosure, as Lauren informed me, though I kept my distance. They downsized to a small apartment, a far cry from their 3,500-square-foot lakefront home. My father reluctantly sold the SUV at a loss and offloaded the vacation condo for pennies on the dollar. "They're still blaming you in front of everyone," Lauren said during one of her weekly visits. "It's wild. They tell anyone who'll listen that you abandoned them after promising lifelong support." "Let them talk," I said, surprisingly unbothered. "The truth stands on its own." And it did. My extended family rallied around me after learning the full story. Even my father's brother, who'd always backed him, called to offer support after hearing about their refusal to help during my surgery. Meanwhile, my life was transforming. Rachel, from my support group, helped me buy a cozy 3-bedroom house in a family-friendly neighborhood. The mortgage was lower than my apartment rent, and Liam and Sophia now had a backyard to play in, a first for them. My memorial website business had grown enough that I could scale back my illustration clients and focus on work that felt fulfilling. Sarah still helped with childcare 3 days a week, but I'd restructured my schedule to spend more time with Liam and Sophia. Most importantly, I'd found a community. Neighbors welcomed us to our new home with homemade dishes. The support group arranged playdates for Liam and Sophia, fostering friendships for both them and me. Lauren had transformed into a true sister, no longer a rival for our parents' affection. Even Clara, the nurse from the hospital, occasionally dropped by with her kids for playtime. Despite losing Michael and cutting ties with my parents, I felt less isolated than ever before. 6 months after my surgery, a handwritten letter arrived from my mother. I nearly tossed it unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was something new, a sincere apology. "Watching you thrive without our help forced me to face hard truths about myself as a mother," she wrote. "I was envious of your strength and independence. I resented that you didn't need me the way I needed my own mother. But you did need me when you asked us to watch Liam and Sophia during your surgery, and we let you down completely. I'm deeply sorry." The letter went on to describe how they'd overhauled their finances. My father had taken a part-time job at a local garden center, and they'd sold most of their luxury items, embracing a simpler life for the first time in years. She didn't ask for money, or even forgiveness, just acknowledgement of her regret. I shared the letter with Lauren, who was cautious. "They've been talking about writing to you for weeks," she said. "Dad resisted at first, but I think he's changing, especially after his health scare last month." "Health scare?" I asked, a flicker of concern rising despite myself. "Just high blood pressure and some chest pain," Lauren clarified. It shook him up. He's on meds now and actually listening to the doctor. I think facing his own mortality has humbled him. I wasn't ready to reply to the letter right away. I needed time to weigh my emotions. Was this genuine remorse, or another manipulation? Had they truly changed, or were they just adjusting their approach? That night, I pulled out old family photos for the first time since cutting contact. Behind the polished smiles, I saw patterns I'd missed before. My parents had always been performers, playing the role of ideal parents while prioritizing their own desires. A year after my surgery, I agreed to meet them at a quiet cafe near my new home. When they arrived, they looked different. My father seemed diminished, his usual swagger replaced by a quieter presence. My mother had traded her designer outfits for practical clothing. Liam and Sophia were with Lauren for the afternoon. I wasn't ready for a full family gathering. We sat in tense silence until my father did something I'd never seen. He cried. "I've been a terrible father," he admitted, his voice cracking. "And an even worse grandfather. I don't expect you to forgive me, Amelia, but I need you to know I see it now. How selfish we've been." My mother reached across the table, her hand hovering but not touching mine. "We failed you," she said softly, her eyes glistening. "We're trying to be better, but we know we have a long way to go." "We've been in family therapy for months," my mother explained, her voice tentative but earnest. "Lauren suggested it, and we pushed back at first, but it's been eye-opening. I didn't rush to offer forgiveness or make promises I wasn't ready to keep. Instead, I showed them photos of Liam and Sophia on my phone and shared glimpses of our new life. The house, the backyard, my growing memorial website business. For perhaps the first time, they listened without steering the conversation back to themselves. As we stood to leave, my father spoke softly, his voice almost unfamiliar in its humility. "Could we, maybe someday, have a chance to know our grandchildren?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "That depends on what you do, not what you say," I replied. "If you're truly committed to change, we can start with short, supervised visits. But know this, my children will only be around people who respect their mother." Walking away from the cafe, I felt neither the suffocating weight of duty nor the searing anger that had long defined our relationship. Instead, a quiet confidence settled over me, the certainty of a woman who knew her value, who had set boundaries, and would uphold them without hesitation. Whether my parents could genuinely change was uncertain, but I had already evolved. No longer the daughter craving approval. I was a mother, fierce in protecting my children and unwavering in my expectations.